Imagine standing on that stage, cameras blazing, the entire world watching and hearing your name called as the winner. Then imagine someone walking up and quietly taking the crown off the other woman's head and placing it on yours. The chaos, the disbelief, the tears. That was the moment that introduced her to the world, not as a graceful queen in a perfect fairy tale, but as a woman who had her destiny handed to her in the most chaotic, unforgettable way in live television history. And yet that crowning moment was not even close to the most surprising chapter of her life. Because what came after years later on a private island, in a ceremony the whole world didn't even know was happening. That's the story nobody saw coming. She was born in Stuttgart, Germany, to a German father and a Filipino mother, and her early childhood was, by her own description, happy and uneventful. The family settled in Cagayan de Oro in the southern Philippines, and life felt warm and full. But that warmth didn't last. When her parents separated, she was just 9 years old. Her father returned to Germany, and Pia felt the loss of her partner in crime deeply, along with the sudden tightening of finances that followed. For a little girl who once described herself as a wallflower, the tallest kid in class, always last in the flag ceremony queue, too shy to even have a crush, the years that followed were about survival, not stardom. She became the breadwinner of the family, signing with a talent agency and acting in TV and film roles under the stage name Pia Romero. She studied, she worked. She quietly kept her head down and carried more weight than most teenagers should ever have to carry. After finishing school, she studied culinary arts and also worked as a beauty writer and stylist. She was building a life out of whatever doors would open, not yet knowing that the biggest door in the world was still ahead of her, and that she'd have to knock on it 3 times before it finally swung open. Most people don't know that Pia Wurtzbach didn't just show up and win. She entered the national pageant Binibining Pilipinas not once, not twice, but 3 times. She was first runner-up in 2013, a finalist in 2014, and finally crowned Miss Universe Philippines in 2015. 3 years of trying, 3 years of walking back to the drawing board, quietly rebuilding, refusing to quit. That kind of persistence doesn't make headlines, but it shapes a person in ways that show up later, when the pressure is highest and the whole world is watching. And when the whole world finally did watch, she was ready. She made it to the top 15, then the top 10, then the top 5. And in the final question and answer round, she spoke about using her platform to raise HIV awareness in the Philippines, calling herself confidently beautiful with a heart. It was genuine. It was poised. It was exactly what a queen sounds like. On December 20th, 2015, Pia Wurtzbach made history as the 64th Miss Universe and the 3rd woman from the Philippines to hold the title. The first Filipino woman to wear that crown in over 40 years. The girl who used to stand last in line had just stepped to the front of the entire world, but the night wasn't done with her yet. Here is where the story takes a turn that nobody, not the producers, not the audience, not even Pia herself could have scripted. Host Steve Harvey walked to the microphone and announced that Miss Colombia, Ariadna Gutierrez, had won Miss Universe 2015. She was crowned. The confetti fell, millions of Colombians celebrated, and Pia stood just a few feet away, watching it happen. Then came the silence, the awkward, agonizing pause on live television that seemed to stretch on forever. Several moments later, Harvey returned to the stage and corrected what would become one of the most talked about moments in live television history. The winner of Miss Universe 2015 was actually the Philippines. Think about what that moment asked of Pia Wurtzbach to stand there composed, while the crown was lifted off another woman's head and placed on hers. To smile when the cameras zoomed in, not in triumph but in grace. She didn't gloat. She didn't crumble though. Initially announced as first runner-up, she felt satisfied simply knowing she had made her country proud. And then seconds later, she was Miss Universe. That composure, that steel wrapped in warmth, became her signature. The world didn't just see a beauty queen that night. They saw a woman who could hold herself together when everything around her was falling apart. And the Philippines, they didn't just celebrate a crown, they saw something of themselves in her, a people who have always known how to find grace inside of chaos. She had arrived. But the next chapter of her life would be even quieter and even more beautiful than anyone expected. When Pia Wurtzbach and Jeremy Jauncey met in 2019 at Covent Garden in London, it was by most accounts love at first sight. She was living in the city she'd called home for nearly a decade. He was a Scottish-Colombian entrepreneur visiting with family, the founder and CEO of Beautiful Destinations, a creative media agency that had built a following of over 24 million people on Instagram, working with major travel brands, hotel chains, and tourism boards around the world. They went to Hong Kong not long after their first meeting, where they reportedly shared their first kiss. By June 2020, they made their relationship public. He proposed in May 2022, and then in a move that felt perfectly beautifully they got married on March 24, 2023, on the secluded North Island of Seychelles with only 3 guests present. Pia did her own hair and makeup with no glam team in sight. She wore a corset dress embellished with flowers. Jeremy, honoring his Scottish roots, wore a traditional kilt. They exchanged vows by the water, cut their cake on the beach, and danced as the sun went down. No spectacle, no photographers staking out the venue. Just 2 people choosing each other quietly on the most beautiful island in the world. The world found out about the wedding 6 weeks later, on May 5, 2023, when Pia posted a video on Instagram quietly, without warning, caption simply, "Mr. and Mrs. Jauncey." The internet erupted. Fellow Miss Universe title holders, celebrities, and fans from every corner of the globe flooded the comments with love. For a woman who had once had her most personal moment, her own crowning turned into a global spectacle, keeping this one private felt like something she had well and truly earned. She has since spoken openly about why they chose such an intimate ceremony, saying her worst nightmare was walking down the aisle surrounded by cameras, seeing only the backs of people's phones instead of their faces. She wanted to actually be present on her wedding day, and she was. In the time since, Pia has continued to build a life that exists far beyond any single title or moment. As a UNAIDS Goodwill Ambassador for Asia and the Pacific, she continues to advance awareness on HIV and AIDS, while championing inclusivity for the LGBTQIA+ community. As a WWF Philippines Ambassador, she lends her voice to environmental sustainability and child welfare initiatives. And then almost out of nowhere, she did something that surprised even her most dedicated fans. She wrote a book. In 2023, Wurtzbach released her debut novel, Queen of the Universe, a semi-autobiographical story that reflected her evolution from beauty queen to author, advocate, and entrepreneur. Fans noted that the protagonist shares similarities with the beauty queen herself in her pursuit of success, love, and happiness. It was a bold, creative swing, and it landed. She followed it up by announcing a second book is already in the works. She has been named the first Filipino ambassador for Bulgari, the legendary Italian jewelry house, placing her in the same company as Anne Hathaway, Zendaya, and Priyanka Chopra. By December 2025, she made her red carpet debut at the British Fashion Awards at London's Royal Albert Hall as a Bulgari guest, wearing a couture blue gown, calling it a night she'd never forget. And in May 2026, Pia spoke publicly about how her definition of success has shifted, sharing that she has been building her very first home, and that the quiet process of fixing it up and making it hers has started to feel like winning too. She has said plainly that she doesn't want her Miss Universe year to be the highlight for the rest of her life, and she means it. From pageant stages to Paris runways, from Seychelles beaches to the pages of her own novel, Pia Wurtzbach is not looking back. She is, as she has always been, moving forward. Pia Wurtzbach's story is a reminder that the messiest moments, the ones where the wrong name gets called, where the crown lands on someone else's head, where life refuses to follow the script, sometimes turn out to be the most important ones of all. They shape the kind of person who can stand barefoot on a private beach, do her own makeup, and mean every single word of her vows. If her journey moved you, drop a comment below and let us know which part of her story hit different. And if you're new here, subscribe.